Okay, hope I'm audible. Okay, great. Got great. Start then. Start. So today is the second day of our Python tutorial. So what we've done is in the day one we understood what is how to install Python. I explained like what is an interpreter in Python, how do you compile files, what does it really. If someone would have missed it, please watch back. The link would be. Today we are going to discuss data types have in Python. Okay. So to start with, let's okay. So Python, right? We're talking about Python. Python. We're going to talk about data types. Now, like when you are learning a language, right? As a new language, what we should all understand that we have to understand how the installation works and all. That's the first step. Second step, which comes in the picture, is that to understand what are the data types which are supported by that language. Okay. So when it comes to Python, again we'll follow the same approach. In case of data types, right? For Python, we have these data types. Let me just try to list it down because these are the fundamental blocks of Python. Once you understand them, then you can start working on writing some code. Okay. Otherwise, if you don't know like what structure or what things are or are the things which are only allowed, will not be able to make things. So now coming back, right? So what we have, the first thing is like you can create int variables, right? You can create int variables in Python. Second is what is int, like 5, 10, right? These are like int variables. You can create these, okay? Python. Second is you can create decimal values. You can call it as float or decimal, whatever you want to call. Just use it the term which is used in Python, which is float. So this represents any number which has a decimal point. Say 5.2 is a float value, or if you want to say 5.235 and all that, right? This is still a float value. Okay. So these are two different types of data types. Third data type we have in Python is call it as boolean, right? We have a boolean one. When you say boolean, like it could be a true value or a false value, right? Just two values, right? In case of boolean, and again it's same as in every language. Fourth thing what you have in Python is you can have it in float boolean, you can have a string value. When it comes to string, right? Again, what is the string? Like we are learning, right? Let's say this is a string which you are double quote, something like this. We are going to touch upon every data type one by one. I'm just trying to detail out what are the complete list. Right? String. Now this is a string value, right? This is a string value. So the fifth one is like you can create a list. You can create a list. Again, I will show you like how a list look like. Then you can create something called like tuple. Okay, tuple. Now tuple might look like very similar to list, but what is the exact case? Why would you use it and why would you not? We will talk about it. Next case which we have is the dictionary. You can create a dictionary data structure, okay, and put values inside dictionary. What is the dictionary again? How it looks like? I'll tell you that part also. The last one you touch upon is the none type. Okay, none type. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, these are the 8 which are very important in Python, and that is what we should be knowing. Let's start looking at one by one in the by practically by seeing. Okay, now first of all we have to understand, like, we are saying that we have to use data type to create a variable, but how do we create a variable? How do we create a variable in Python? What we can do is, let's say, what is the rule, right? The rule is again very simple. See, to come again, try to compare all this learning to the language which you are already aware of, like maybe JavaScript or Java, right? So let's try to compare. So when it comes to Python, right, how do you write code? We would say that it is very okay. Let me talk in terms of Java. Okay, in terms of Java, right? So what we have is, um, let's say in case of Java, how would you write? If I have to create a variable, what you would do in case of Java is you might write something like this. You would say, let's say, int let's say age equals to 25. You would write something like this in case of Java. Now when it comes to JavaScript, when it comes to JavaScript, you might write something like this. You would say let age equals to again 25. Now when it comes to Python, you would write simply like this. You will just say age again, right? Python is very free flowing, right? We have discussed first class. So now let's understand, like, what is the difference here. When it comes to Java, right, it is mandatory that you have to define what is the data type, right? You have to specifically mention while you are declaring a variable, like, what is the data type. In case of Java, you would have written int there, right, like this. Okay, and then you have to also give the access modifiers and everything, right, which you want, which you would need to know, right? When it comes to JavaScript, in JavaScript you do not provide the data, you do not mention data type. There also you do not need to mention any data type, which is okay, but there you have to use this let const or var, right, to declare the variable, right? So if you have to declare a variable, you will have to use this. Okay, and this is the recommended approach in JavaScript. But when it comes to Python, right, you do not have to do any of these. You do not need to declare the data, you do not need to mention the data type, you do not need to declare the variable. You just need to create the variable. I mean, you do not need to use any let const or var, right, to declare the variable. Okay, so here you have to just say age equals 25. Now let me just start typing this. So when you say age, right, it's age equals 25, age equals 25, and what you will do is you will just say, now let's say, like, this is a variable created, right, which is age equals to 25, and it's done. Now what you can do is, let's just try to print it out. What is the variable? What is the value of it? Age equals to this and this, right? Let's just save this and try to run. You will get 25, right? You got 25 here. Now what you can do is, just to make sure, right, sometimes you do not know, see, because the way we are writing it, we will never know what is the data type of this variable. If you are seeing that variable in a 100 lines of code, right, you want to understand that what type of variable, right, data type that variable is holding, and there is a shortcut for it. What you can do is, you can use a type inbuilt method called type, and just type and just give the variable name here. Once you do this, right, and print it out, it will tell you what is the data type of this variable. So let's say that I am not aware that age is of int type, right? What we can do is just run it, and you got it int here, right? Right? You see this class int. This is the int type, data type in case of Python. Now the second data type, right? The second data type is the your float thing, right? Float, decimal, what you want to call, but the official terminology is float, right? So what we can do is, let's get a variable. So let me just say percentage, right? Let's say this is my percentage, this cool percentage. What we will have is percent equals to this. So let's say we have 87.9897, right, something like this. So this is your float value. You can do is, now let's try to just print it out. Again, observe that I do not have to define what is the data type of this variable. I don't have to tell here that it's a float, it's a int. I just need to choose the name of the variable and assign a value. That's it. Okay, one more thing. When you see Python uses indentation, right, for a lot of things. We need to understand like what are the uses of it, and we'll get to know once we start working on functions and classes, right? But here, if you see, right, in case of this, right, I am leaving a space here, right? I'm leaving a space here. Okay, I'm leaving a space between percent and equal mark, and then equal and the value mark, right? You could write it this way, or if you wish like, you can even remove this. So both are fine. People get confused that, okay, is this the format we have to write? No, it is fine, right? You can just connect all this together with the equal sign, and then you can write it. Okay, now let's just print the type of this also. Run it. What is the output? See this? This is of float type, right? This is a float type, as the name says. Now you might be wondering why it is giving class. I did not create a class, right? But it is all class. Now this is another learning which you have to do. Now Python is a object oriented language. Okay, now everything in Python again is a class. Okay, is a class, and whatever you consume is an object of it. So when you do this, right, internally what it would do is, it is using a class called int, right, creating an object of it and assigning a value to it, right? That's why this, when we are running this, it is telling what is the type of this age. It is telling you that it is derived from the class int. That's what it is saying. Okay, similarly for the percent, it is telling that it is derived from the value from the class called float, right? Now the third thing, right, this is int, this is int float. Now what we have is, we'll use int float, and the next thing is boolean, right? Now understand this, right? In Python, we do not have distinction between float or decimal, int, long, short, byte, right? Nothing like that, right? We do not, like in case of Java, right? You have certain things like this, but in case of Python, you just have one category which is int, right, for the normal numbers, and when you have to use decimals, you have only one type, which is, you start comparing it, right, with your Python, with your Java thing, right, you would start finding out, like in Java, right, you have these things. In case of Java, you have to write like, in the category of int itself, you have four different data types. You have short, you have byte, you have long, right, and int. These all four belongs to that category of int. When it comes to floating value, right, in Java, you have float and decimal. You have float and decimal. But in, again, things are simple in Python. I try to keep it simple, so just see float, right? So you do not need to have multiple distinctions between a single category also. Now the coming to the next part, boolean, right? Again, boolean is same in all the languages. So here also you have boolean only, right? Boolean. So in case of Python also, it is only boolean. But there is one thing which you need to understand. When it comes to boolean, you can just write here. Let's say you just write is valid. Okay, is valid equals to. Now here, right, you, I mean, in some of the languages, what they do is, they again accept a boolean value like 0. If you assign 0 to them, they will say, okay, it's a boolean value, right? Or if you type something like this, let's say true, right, all small, right, it will still be considered as a true value in other languages. But when it comes to Python, right, you have to use the format. The format looks like this: t would be capital and something like this, is valid equals to true, right? If you write in this way, then only the boolean value would be considered, that it's a boolean value. Okay, now let's print this out. When we say print is valid and print type of is valid, right, let's see what does it do. You run it, you get, it's a class of bool, right? Class of bool, again an inbuilt class of Python. again you can see, based on the value assigned to the variable, it is detecting, it is automatically assigning data type to that variable, okay, internally. And again, like as I said, everything in Java, in Python is like Python is an object oriented. Everything is derived from the class and works on the concept of classes and objects. Now the fourth thing, right? But again, try to understand the simplification which we have in case of Python. You do not have multiple distinction. These are only very small. I mean, very less number of data types which you have to remember. Now the fourth type, again very popular in all the languages, which is, right. How do you create a string variable? Very simple, just like here, right? Just type name. Let me write the full name. Let's again, like, how do you give? Let's say my name is Akhil Jain, teaching on pot test. I'm pot test, right? Let me just say, let me give a description. Let's say, let me give a variable name as description. Okay, description. Now you see this, right? When I'm trying to assign a value here, what we have to do is, we should do is, when we are writing this, right, it is complaining that that this is not correct, right? It's not correct. So what we have to do is, if we have the intention of creating as a string, there are three options which we can do. Either you can put things in single quote like this, you can put it in a single quote like this, in a single quote like this, and close it in a single quote, right? Or you could do it in a double quotes. Let me try to do it in double quotes. Let me just say two here, right? You can put it in the double quotes also. This is also fine, right? Let me use the third one. If you want to say, let's say description 3, what you can do here is, like, this type of this, what it would do is, like, let's say I want to have a multi-line comment, right? Till Jan King on pot test, right? If you're doing this way, right? If you do this way, again, one of the ways you can put a slash like this, right? But again, no one remembers it, and you have to unnecessarily put double quotes in every line, right? What I could do instead of this is, what you can do is just type the text again on this, right? Let's just separate lines, pot test. Let's say if I want to have it as a single string, right, but it is covering multiple lines, what you can do is you can put three double quotes, 1 2 3, right, and enclose the text across the multi-line with again ending with the three double quotes. Once you do it, it's all fine. So this is how you provide a multi-line string to a variable in Python. You can do what? You can just print it out. Let's print it out. Print print description 2, print, right? And let me just print the type of some any of these. So type, right? Let me just run it. You see here, right? Printing all this, right? Children testing on teaching on pot test, children teaching on pot test. The third variable description 3, since you have written in this format, right, which is spread across multiple lines, it is also considering it in the same way. Okay. Now again, as you can see, the type of the description is here CR, which represents your string. Okay, which represents your string. Now see this, now. So this is how you create strings. Now when you have to work with strings, right, like any other language, right, string is a data type which has a lot of inbuilt methods, right, like this here, right? Again, since it's an object, right, everything is an object, so these are methods. Today we are not going to cover this string methods, okay. We're just covering on a high level what are different data types. So this portion will revisit and try to cover what are the different methods available within the string in Python. Okay. So this was the fourth data type, right? Fourth data type which we covered. So we covered int, float, boolean, and string, right? And as I said, you could write it in a single quote, double quotes, and triple quotes. It is in multiple lines, right? Make sure when it comes to boolean, you are putting P as capital or F as capital, because these are the only values which could be assigned to a boolean, right? Now these are very straightforward, right? These are very straightforward, and I'm sure we all have seen them under different languages in different ways. Now, let's go to the next set of lists. Okay. What are these? Now these are, like, I would say, right, these are data types, right? Although these are also put in the same category of data types, but I would like to call them as, at least these three, as I would call them as data structures. Data structures in which are by default provided by Python. Okay, you can consume. Now let's start look at it, right, what it is. But before going there, right, let me just understand one more, which is an important part, which is none, which you can keep in the same category like these. So these are four, right? So count it as the fifth one. None. The name is none. What does none means? What does none means? So let's say, if you see this here, right, none. You say none. What you can do is, let's say, I will print. Let's say, what I should say. Let me just give a name. Let me just say, uh, to last name. The last name, you want to type a last name for someone, and you provide a value like none here, right? None here. When you provide something a value of none, right, you can think of it like you are doing what? You are just like, you're providing a, your, your intention here is to say that, okay, currently I do not have a value for this variable. Okay, this is the intention we have. We're just trying to say that, okay, there is a variable called last name, but I do not have a value for it as of now. So since I wanted to have that variable which should exist, I'm providing this value which is called none. You can consider this as null. Okay, like in other languages you have a concept of null values, right, and empties and all that. So similarly in Python you can consider that if you do not want to initialize, if you do not want to provide a value to a variable, what value will it get? None. Okay, now let me just try to print it out. If you just try to print here, print last name, what will it print? It would print none. And if you just print the type of it, you'll see that it has its own class which is called as, see this down, see here, right, it printed none, what value I provided here, right, and the type of this is called as none type. Okay, so even this, right, this is a very special keyword, right, in Python. And what does it, what, as I said, right, consider it like in other languages we have the concept of null, right, and all that. So there, in case of Python, what we have the value as none here, right? And why would you use it? If you, let's say, you do not have a value for this variable, right, you do not have the value which you could assign here, so you cannot write some, you cannot just leave it like this, right? You cannot leave it like this. If you provide it is as this, right, it becomes a string. It's an empty string, but it's a string, right? So you are providing some value to it. But when you say none here, right, it is understood in Python that it, what does it mean is that someone has the intention of creating that variable but not providing a value. Okay, we will talk about none when we talk about functions more, right, when we will providing the value of the parameters of those functions and even try to return something from that function. We'll talk about it. You can also, if you remember, right, in Java you have a concept of void, right? Void means you use it in the terms of functions which does not return anything, right? So in Python, when you do not want to return something from a function, what does it return? It returns none. Okay, but again, more on this maybe later on once we discuss the functions and all. But as of now, just understand that this is an important data type which you should be knowing about in Python. Okay, it looks different, like 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 if you consider these four, the first four, these are like similar to what you have in other languages, but this could be something different, right, which you might find, at least the name is different. Okay, none. Now the last thing, right, last three things which we should be knowing about this. So now the, if you think here, right, if I ask you, like, I would like if you know, does Python have an a data structure like array? If anyone knows, please ping. Otherwise, I just wanted to understand, like, if anyone knows about it. Does Python have a data structure called like an array? Can you create an array in Python? Not sure, right? Okay, no worries. So what we have is, like, what you can do here is, let me give an answer. The answer is no. Python does not have uh, a data structure called termed as array. Okay, it does not have it. What we have is, because we have a data structure called list. We have a data structure called list. Now what you can do here is, like, what is a list? How do you create a list? A list is like, you're creating an ordered list here, right? You're creating, you want to arrange things. So let me just give an example. So let's say you have an intention of creating the list of the guests who are invited to a party. So what you can do is, you can create a list. And how would you create that structure? You will open these square brackets, and try to provide values inside this. Let's say the first value would be here, the Akhil is here, right? Second value would be here, let's say it would be Johil. Third value could be here, Tushar. Right, like this. You can have it. Okay. Now, can you only have these values? Can't you have custom values? Let's say 5.789, something like this. You can have anything here, right? You can have the names. You can have, I mean, it could be a combination of all the other types you can have, right? Here. So you see, now it's a list, right? It's a list which is containing some items within it. Hill, Johil, Tushar, which are string values. One is a int value. 5.789 is a float value. Okay, so you can have all of this. Now let's try to print it out. If you print it out, what does it print? If you print this, right? Let's try to print, like, what do we get? Here, see here, right? It printed the entire thing, right? What you have in the list, right? And it's telling you, if I am trying to print what is the data type of it, it says it's a type of list. Okay, it says the types of list. Now why would you create a list? The intention could be to, okay, let's say we have, so what we are saying that this is a list and it has 5 items in it, right? Now if you try to compare this with Java, right? In Java, what you have? You have a concept of arrays, right? You have a concept of arrays. You can create arrays. I mean, in case of Java, you have both the things. You have arrays and list, right? Now, if I just give you a brief about it, arrays are like of fixed type, right? Of fixed length. Arrays are of fixed length, right? List is, it's the dynamic length. It can grow, right? It can grow. It can grow. So what is the advantage of list in Java? That you can it's a free flowing, right? You can keep on adding the values. You could remove the values from it and all that, right? Whereas arrays are of fixed type, and you cannot uh, keep on adding the values as you feel like, no, right? You have to define the size, and accordingly you can fit the values. Now if I again try to understand, like, what, how these two things exist in Python. Okay, when I'm saying list, right, think of this list as this list. Okay, see this list here, right, in Java. So it's similar to this. It's similar to this. It is like, you can create an ordered list, right? You can keep putting the items within a list, and a list look like this. You open square brackets, and you can put anything right within it which you feel like. Let's say I want to put a name, I want to put my age into it, I want to put my salary into it, right? You are free to put anything inside this. Okay, and it's a growable thing. You can keep on adding more values if you feel like, at later point of time also. Okay, that is how the list would work, right? So this is like, if you want to compare with Python and Java, this works same. But when it comes to Java, right, you when you create a list, you have to define the data type which it holds, right? Whereas in case of Python, there is no such need. You can just create a list and keep on adding the value which you feel like. Let me show you how now. Okay, so again, we this is not arrays, right? This is like list only. It's a growable thing. Let's go back. Let's try to do some things here. See this here, right? Akhil, Johil, and so now how list works, right? Again, list is working on the basis of indexing, right? What you can do is you can just use this. Let's say I want to. So this is again, this starts from zero index, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? If I want to use, let's say, just right, I want to print the first item, right, of that list. What is it? Guest list 0. So this is the indexing position, right? So 0 still is at which position? How do we add comments in Python? We add comments by using hash, right? Not the double quotes. But since I use different languages, I am in a habit of writing multiple things. Okay, so this is the indexing position, right? So this is 0, this 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So this is 0th position, this is first position. If I use guest list 0 here, right? Try to print it out. Let's see what does it print. It prints Akhil, right? It prints Akhil. It was able. So again, what does it mean? It means that you can use indexing position to retrieve the items of the list. Okay, so it starts from 0. So this is 0 position, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me get the fourth position value, just 5.789. Print guest list. This should be 4a, right? If I print this out, get what? 5.789, because it is trying to print the value which is placed at the fourth index position of that list. Okay, so this is how it works. Now the next value, this is list. So the next item is, we have to again please understand, list is a data structure in Python again, right? And it has its own inbuilt methods. So if you put guest list dot, you will get all these methods. Again, we are not going into the detail of these methods. You can just see them. We will explore them once we have a proper session of list. Okay, there we will discuss all these methods. Now the next item, uh, we have what? We have something called tuple. Okay, we have something called tuple. Now tuple is something which you can consider like similar to arrays. Okay, tuple you can think like it is similar to arrays. Let me just write similar to arrays. Some people might not agree with me, but I just wanted to give a familiarity, right? Like arrays in Java. So when it comes to Java, right? When it comes to Java, what do you use arrays for? We want to create arrays to have a fixed structure, right? A structure, a data type, sorry, a data structure which has fixed set of values, right? Which cannot grow. So if you once you created it, it will remain like that only. It cannot be modified. Similarly happens in case of Python. It's something called tuple. Okay, it's called tuple. And how do you create it? You use these braces, right? You use these braces, right? Now again, you can put anything inside this. You can put a same type data types or different type data types. It is all allowed, right? It is all allowed, but you cannot grow your tuple, right? Once you created this, you cannot add any new value to it. Okay, you cannot do that. What do I mean? What do I mean by that? So again, just for example, let's say I said this was the list, right? It was the list because these are, how do you know it's a list? Because these are square brackets. Now if I wanted to add a new value to this, there is an inbuilt method to it. Okay, guest list dot append. You can just write the name of the next guest. Let's say it would be Jen. Let's say Jen. When you do this, right? When you do this, now try to print the list. You will see that it has this value now. Let me just run it. If you see this, right, originally these were the values of the guest list, and I was allowed to add a new value, and you can see now it has these 6 values, right? Now let's look at tuple, right? How does tuple look like? In case of tuple, you will do something like this. Let's say guest tuple. Let me just write guest tuple. What you can do is you will have to open this bracelet. Let me use this example, the same example, right? So tuple looks like the same way. Phil, Johil, Tushar, and all this. You can see you can put the same type of values in tuple also. So there is no difference. But the difference here is that you cannot grow this. You cannot grow this. So what you will say? You will say guest tuple dot. You see, right? There is no such method of append and all. Okay, there is no such method. Let me try to print this. Let me just try to print the type of it. So tuple, okay, wherever you should use tuple only in the cases where you are sure that you would not change the value later on. So this is what it is. Test. Yes, it is test tuple. Next part is print test. Okay. Now let's run this. See what do we get. Should give me a different data structure called tuple. You see this, right? What is the type of this data type? I mean this thing here is called as tuple in Python. Okay. So we have these looks like same thing, right? List and tuple, right? It can store multiple different types of values inside a single data structure, right? But the difference is list is growable, but tuple is not. Tuple is of fixed size. Okay. You can think of it like an array in case of Java, and list is like list in Java. Okay? That concept. Now the last part is called dictionary. So it is again a data structure, right? And if you have to draw a you have to draw a you have to understand like what it is. It is similar to like maps. Okay, it is similar to like maps maps in Java. Okay, what do we have? What is maps in Java? Maps in Java has only one key attribute, that it will have a sequence. It can have multiple key value pairs, right? Key value pairs. So how does a key value pair look like? So you will have a key, a value, then you can have again another key 2, another value, right? So you can have things like this, right? Similarly, you can create such a structure in Python, but the name here is not maps, it is called as dictionary. How does it look like? It looks like this. You can just create, let's say, employee. Let's say, let me just employee, trying to create an object employee. So here you can see these braces here, right? The parenthesis, right? And what you can do here is you can just provide a name. Name would be, let's say, just say name. This is my key. Okay, this is my key. This would be my name, right? This would be my name. This is my one key. Okay, I have another key called, let's say, age. This is 25. Salary is this, right? This is, you can see, this is, these braces represent that this we are creating a dictionary. It has 3 keys: name, age, and salary. The value of this key is Akhiljan. The value of age is 25. Value of salary key is 50,000, right? Now, if you want to print it, you can print it like this. Print employee. You could say print type of employee. To run it, let's see what do we get. We get this, right? You can see it says it's a dictionary type. Okay, it says a dictionary type, and it is printing like this. It is printing like this, right? Now let's say again, like in case of maps, right? You can give a key and get a specific value from it. Similarly, you can do it here. What you can do have to do is you will sorry. I think you will have to use this. Say name here. Let's print it out. Print this value. on it and see what do we get. Got Akhiljan, right? You are saying that get me. You're trying to look inside the dictionary. Okay, get me a key called name, right? And then it is giving you the value for it. It is Akhil. Okay, right? So this is how this has to be done. Now again, let me just draw a comparison. When it comes to list, you will create a list. You can see whenever you are looking at a code, you will just see these braces and you will get to know, okay, we are here someone is trying to create a list. Okay, when you see these braces, you will understand it's a tuple. And when you see this, right, these parentheses, you have to understand it's a dictionary. The dictionary which will have a key value pair. How do you access values in the list? You use indexing positions. You can use indexing positions. Indexing, right? What does it mean? So if you have a list called guest list, right? Guest, guest. What you can do is open these square brackets and give the index position 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And it will give you a value which is placed at that index position. Similarly, when it comes to dictionary, right? I mean, even in case of tuple, right? You have to do the same thing. Just use a tuple. Let's say tuple name is tuple itself, and do the index position like this. And when it comes to dictionary, you can just say, let's say employee, open these brackets, the name of your key, the name. What it will do is it will give you the value of the value placed at that key. Okay. So this is how these are the different data types which you know in Python. Okay, and this is how you work on it. Right. Try to learn these, right, and try to compare them with the language which you understand as of now, Java, JavaScript. I'm sure it will make a lot of things will be a lot of clarity, right? It will bring a lot of clarity to, right? So this is how the we need to understand in terms of the data types in Python. That for today, we will try to deep down more into the specific ones like string, this list. Try to go in deep of list, what list, and methods it provides. Similarly for the tuple and the dictionary. Okay, we'll try to understand all of these in details in upcoming sessions. And let's meet tomorrow. So let's wind up for today. So much for your time. Thank you.